What's up, y'all? We are live here on the No Ceilings NBA Draft Show here on the No Ceilings NBA YouTube channel. We're also going to be on your podcast player of choice, but this is not a podcast. This is a reaction show. I wanted to come on and talk to you all about what we all just saw from the game between the Florida Gators and the Duke Blue Devils, which came down to the wire 66 to 67 or 67 to 66. I don't know why I said it the way that I did, but I did. It's okay. But Duke walked away with a 1-point victory off a big time shot from Isaiah Evans, who did not have the best game for himself tonight, but what a what a perfect time to hit your first three-pointer on the night there, Isaiah Evans. But I'm gonna stop talking about Isaiah. Anyone who's been familiar with the reaction shows that we've been doing over here knows that we're only going to be here for about 10, 15 minutes to talk about some of the big takeaways from the game that we need to take just fresh off of just watching the game. There's always time to go back and watch the film. There's always time to have discussions with other people to kind of help measure the way that we feel about how some of the players played tonight. But I just want to come on here and just share what I saw. Okay, so we have to start with Cam Boozer, who finished tonight with 29 points on 10 of 21 shooting. He was 3 of 9 from deep, 6 of 7 from the free throw line, had 6 rebounds, 2 assists to only 2 turnovers, and 1 steal on the night, 2 personal fouls. Now, there's been a lot of conversations, and listen, the No Ceilings family is not exempt from what I'm about to say. There have been a lot of discussions as to how good Cam Boozer is going to be translating up against level of competition, against the more big, the more athletic levels of front court play that the highest levels of basketball competition offer him. There's been conversations about his inside scoring efficiency, about his athleticism, the sort of lift that he gets. Um, I think over the past 2 games, when you're looking at Cam Boozer and his performance against Arkansas, anyone who knows me knows that I'm an Arkansas Razorback fan. I'm also of the mindset that Arkansas's front court, not that great. I know that they're a big I know that we're a big program. We got some really good players. Front court, not that great. Seeing Cam Boozer do what he did against Florida, who they're not Florida of last year, but their front court essentially is the exact same, if not the exact same, actually, and the strongest portion of their team. And Cam just carved him up the entire night. He went up against Ruben Chinyulu, who is a big, strong bodied, able defensive college player, and Cam just cooked him. I mean, if you take away, just the 3-point shooting, he was effective, using his off shoulder, driving straight into the chest of Chinyulu, knocking him back, knocking him off balance, and still being able to finish inside or get to the free throw line. He was just phenomenal. Not only that, but he was even getting offensive rebounds. He had 3 on the night. It felt like all 3 of those led to putbacks. He was active on the glass to an extent. Not the strongest rebounding performance from Cam, but the scoring, the continuous churn that he gave, particularly in the first half, where it felt like Duke could not do anything unless it was through Cam Boozer offensively. That second half, it was a little bit more quiet. It took him several minutes to really get in there and score. But after the media timeout in the second half, he came back a little bit more aggressive, continued to get to the free throw line, continued to crash the glass, and just continue to pressure the defense. And that's the thing that I have appreciated the most about Cam Boozer. The constant pressure that he puts on the rim. He's not flailing. The fouls that he draws, and there could be conversations had as to how, legitimate or how ethical the fouls that some of the fouls that Cam got in the Arkansas game were. Tonight, straight to business, just bouncing off of everybody, people bouncing off of him, always applying contact. And it felt like he could have got to the free throw line a lot more than the 7 times that he did. Defensively, I feel like the popular thing in the draft community is to continuously say how underrated of a defensive player Cam Boozer is. I think that we can all say by now, if we haven't already thought this way, Cam Boozer's a really good defender, okay? Like, he's a really good defender. One steal doesn't really point to that, but if you watch, there were several times that Florida would run pick and roll sets, and Cam would be switched on to a guard. Boogie Flan had no interest in driving and attacking Cam Boozer. Neither did Xavier Lee. Neither did Klopp. Like, none of these guards were interested in trying Cam Boozer. It felt like the ball had to swing away from him, and for whatever reason, they wanted to try Pat Ngongba tonight, and he had 5 blocks. So you kind of have to pick your poison if you're an opposing team going up against the Duke Blue Devils. But I'm just going to go ahead and put this out there since, I'm amongst friends, and thank you all for coming by and hanging out with me tonight. I am of the mindset that Darren Peterson coming into the night has been the hands down number one prospect within this class. I don't know if it's because we haven't been able to see him. Speaking of which, Kansas is playing right now. Darren Peterson with the leg injury, still not playing. They're using an abundance of caution, I think, as we would say. Haven't seen Darren in a while. I miss him. I'm starting to get a little lonely. I'm starting to think Cam Boozer's looking pretty nice right now. I might be moving. Today was the first time. I'll just leave it at this. Today was the first time that I really legitimately started entertaining Cam Boozer potentially being the number one player on my big board. But this is not a podcast. We'll stop talking about how awesome Cam Boozer is. I just feel like I need to be the one to say that I appreciated what Cam Boozer did tonight, coming off of the heels of the victory against my Razorbacks, seeing the way that he dominated against this front court. Okay, now I'm really starting to feel like he could be the number one prospect. Let's go to another prospect who really impressed me. Another guy who, depending on who you talk to, has been all over big boards. Florida Gators Thomas Haugh, who finished with 24 points on, what does this say, 9 of 15 shooting, 2 of 5 from deep, made all 4 of his free throw attempts. He also had 6 rebounds, 1 assist to 2 turnovers, 1 steal, 1 block. And Haugh, I'll tell you, kind of sort of like Cam, the first half was all Thomas Haugh for Florida. There were several times where it felt like if Haugh didn't touch the basketball, they might as well just not have had an offensive possession. What really impressed me about Haugh was not the bully ball stuff. He still did that, right? I mean, if you consider last year, Thomas Haugh was specifically a 4 playing for Florida. It was nice that every once in a while he could step out and play the 3, but ideally speaking, you're looking at a 4 when you're looking at Thomas Haugh. So some of the stuff that he's doing tonight, like stepping out, hitting threes, catching the ball on the perimeter, attacking the basket, and getting crafty with some finishes, if not just outright dunking the basketball. Some of these things that we're watching him do for Florida, you almost kind of have to kind of alter the perspective in which you're watching him play, because he's doing this as a 3 in college and going up against smaller guys who are quicker and who are more capable of beating him to like his point of attack on the offensive end, right? Considering that he might be doing this in the NBA as a 4, where there might be, dare I say, more opportunities for him to take people off of the bounce, kind of a scary proposition when you really start looking at projection and what he could be doing against a different, type of player in the NBA. Not to say, obviously, stepping up in level of competition, level of athleticism, things of that nature. It's not going to be a 1-for-1 translation. Whereas, like, you watch him against a guard in college compared to a slower 4-man, which more often than not in college is just another center playing out there playing the 4. Considering what I watched him do tonight, this is another guy who I'm walking away from this game and considering placing higher on my board. There's a contingent of people who believe that Thomas Haugh has been hands down a lottery level talent. I've been more of that. Let's look in that like 20 to 25 range for him. But after seeing some other performances throughout the night, which I'm not going to get into, I, again, more impressed with Haugh beating guys off of the bounce, He's still being able to do the bully ball thing where he starts on the perimeter but gets to the block and can do some up and unders, can do some pump, counter, hook, things of that nature. He had a phenomenal block against I forget who it was for Duke that drove in and tried a layup, but Haugh just hunted that thing down. Like he saw the entire thing happening and just went in and just blocked, rejected the shot. He was active on the defensive end as you would expect, active on the boards as you would expect, but the way that he's scoring this season, there was one time where the game was about a 6-point game, I believe. He hits a three, and you're just seeing him clap at his teammates and trying to like pick that energy up. Like, okay, we're still in this game, guys. And they were all the way up until the very end. Now, I kind of thought about this the brief moment that I have from the game ending to getting ready to record the podcast. There's typically three things that I talk about, and sometimes I break the rule and talk about more than three. I think Pat Ngongba on this game could easily be that third kind of like big takeaway. Now, I will say he only had 6 shot attempts. Half of those came from deep. Now, this was a different performance than I think almost anybody is used to seeing from Ngongba, where he was more perimeter oriented, where he attempted 3 3-pointers and had 5 assists on the night. Now, he did do big man things well. He did attack the glass. He had 5 rebounds, had 5 blocks as well. So, still active doing the big man things, but I think we saw a little bit of a different layer to Pat Nyongba's game. Not the passing. He's always kind of been looked at as a high potential passing big man. Like he has great vision, has always demonstrated that. The 2 for 3 was pretty eye-opening, and the 1 3 that he missed might have been one of the worst shot selections that we had in the closing moments in the game, particularly for Duke. Like, he just kinda settled for being open from deep and shot it even though the game was like I think it was like a 2-point game in the clutch moments of it. Probably not the shot that we need in that moment, Pat, but still, you win this game in a large part because of what Pat did on the offensive end, just finding people, finding Isaiah Evans cutting when he wasn't hitting 3-pointers throughout the night, finding other players. He had one pass where Malik Brown just kind of cut to the basket and Yongba just flipped this pass around Alex Condon where and it magically just found its way into the hands of Malik Brown, who shot a post shot and it went in. Seeing Pat do the things that he did, he's another one of these guys where maybe you consider sliding him up your board a little bit depending on where you have him. I kind of have him in that. I'm seeing in the chat, BJam369 says I have him in that 20 to 30 range. That's where I have him. I think that's totally fair because you can trust a big man like Pat to be in a modern NBA offense to where NBA teams want the offense to be extended through the big man. And I think Pat showed that tonight. 5 assists is insane for a college big man who plays the way that Pat does. I think that you trust the offense to be able to flow through him. He's still protecting the rim. He's still rebounding the ball. He didn't do a lot of interior scoring stuff tonight, so I don't know if that was intentional. Obviously, Cam's cooking in the paint. You don't want to clog up the paint to where more defensive players are within arm's reach of Cam Boozer. Obviously, I think that this helps the projection of both Pat and Cam tonight. But I just want to run through a couple of just quick hits here. Boogie Flan really has to thank, the shot clock, the way that the game just kind of broke down, that there was 3 minutes left in the game, because I feel like he scored almost all of his 16 points within those closing moments. He was really struggling. 4 turnovers on the night, had some really terrible passes, but the offense just kind of came in a flurry in the closing minutes of that game. Florida really kind of dropped an opportunity to steal a game from Duke tonight because of Boogie Flan's like closing performance. Xavier Lee had 4 points on 1 of 10 shooting from the floor, 1 of 6 from deep. It just continued to not look comfortable within this Florida offense. And just again, I want to say that coming into this season, I thought Florida was a little bit of suspiciously high ranked, and they've done nothing but continue to prove that right. Nick Heminia, I came into the season thinking that he could be one of the best players within this class, and it's looking more and more evident that like, okay, maybe he's a sophomore breakout candidate. Caleb Foster uh, did Caleb Foster things. He did kind of keep Duke in that game with that defensive play where he just kind of like dove on the ball, kept play going. Uh, Dame Sar came off the bench. I believe it was the first time all season that Dame Sar came off the bench, and he's just not been looking himself. Caden Boozer, another player who still only playing 10 minutes in a game. I don't know what the reason for this is. I don't know why Caden Boozer can't come in and play more than 10 minutes. And then Malik Brown, probably not a draft guy, but it seems like he always just knows where to be. I think that there is certainly a path for him to find his way into the NBA and be an impactful player. He's not going to be a 3-point shooter, but he just seems like he's always around the basketball. He just knows how to make defensive plays, and he comes down with timely rebounds, makes great cuts away from the ball. It just not a shooter, doesn't even try. You don't trust him to dribble, but I just I watch him make impressive plays almost every game that he's in, and it's like this dude just knows how to play basketball, and he's huge and awesome. But all right, guys, this is not a podcast. I'm gonna wrap up out of here. Please be sure while I got you here, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you're not subscribed already. We're gonna continue to do these reactions. There's a few interesting games tomorrow's docket, so keep an eye out for that. We're gonna continue to try to come on here on Saturdays and do the night shift where we break down the kind of the Saturday that was, a little bit of the week that was. And of course, we're going to continue to do all of our pods. But for myself, for the No Ceilings crew, I'm out of here and I'll catch up with y'all next time. Much love, y'all.